Audience, please rise. Color guard attention. Color guard advance. Color guard, prepare to post the colors. Audience, please salute and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, post the colors. Audience may be seated. Color guard dismissed.
Members of the graduating class, chairman of the board, faculty, staff, scholars, family, and friends, we welcome you here tonight to honor our graduates and to celebrate their achievements. Before we begin, we'd like to thank the Rock of Roseville for hosting us this evening. We want to say a special bit of thanks for Kimberly Martin, who helped put all of this event together, and all the parents and family who have helped us this evening to have this glorious momentous occasion. Scholars, tonight we honor your sacrifice and your commitment. We often talk about leadership and servant leadership and restoring America's heritage as if that'll be something that you do when you are in college, when you are married, or when you are a boss. Tonight, I'm here to tell you that based upon your actions, in the way that you've pursued your academics, the culture that you have created at the John Adams Academy, with every act of kindness, with every act of virtue, you have truly helped us to restore America's heritage here and now. This evening, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our headmaster, Dr. Shane Schulteis.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, graduating scholars. We've had many great discussions together. We've talked about right and wrong. We've discussed the nature of man and what it ought to be. We've even discussed the nature of beauty. What has perhaps been the emphasis of our discussions, however, has been politics. Not in the narrow sense that the world sees it, but in the broad sense, perhaps the Greek sense, the sense of the city. A collection of men, women, and children organized in a specific form for a specific end or purpose. As such, the study of politics encompasses all disciplines. Biology, for man is a living creature who shares characteristics with other living beings. Physics, for man, is part of the natural world. Literature, as it is an investigation of the political question expressed in poetry, novels, plays, and other forms of writing. Mathematics, for logic, is a building block of practical reason. And even music and art, for man is a creative being made to seek and express beauty. Graduates, during your years at John Adams Academy, you've studied politics as described above. I, as your teacher and mentor, have been lucky enough to share with you some of that search. Your search is not yet over, but you are entering a new phase. As you enter this next phase, please allow me one more chance to give you just 2 little bits of advice. First, as you exercise your life as citizens, remember that it is not only about voting or campaigning for what you want. You must look at the effect that it has on our form and structure of government. Madison stated in My Favorite Federalist, 51, "But what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, you must oblige it to control itself. A dependent on the people is no doubt the primary control on the government, but experience has taught mankind the necessity of auxiliary precautions." We've discussed both the importance of good human beings and virtue in that primary precaution, but also much about checks and balances, written constitutions, separation of powers, federalism, and other concepts found in the American governmental system that is an auxiliary precaution, that is a form of government that is so important for us to preserve if we are to preserve our liberties. Second, Aristotle taught that mankind had an end or a purpose in his existence. Aristotle calls this end happiness. The purpose of the city is to facilitate this end. The only way to achieve this end, or at least a necessary aspect of achieving that end, according to Aristotle, is virtue. Let me encourage you to remember just one specific virtue. Horace described it as dulce et decorum est patria mori, the willingness to die for one's country. A phrase, by the way, that was satirized in World War I, but I think it means more than just death. Montesquieu stated that the primary principle governing republics was virtue, and that the primary virtue consisted of love for one's country. Our founding fathers called this public virtue, a willingness to sacrifice our own self-interests for the interests of family, community, and country. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life, as the great hymn America the Beautiful states. Linking this idea With the idea of Aristotle, I would conclude the following: that happiness can only be found in service to others, to family, to community, to country. I think this is what it means to be a servant leader. May you all seek lives of service, virtue, and happiness. This is my final wish for you. And I thank you and bid you a short farewell as your headmaster. We will now hear from first our valedictorian, Anna Yarmolov, who will be followed by our salutatorian, Sarah Peterson. That then will be followed by a special musical number by, I know what I'm doing. Okay. I reversed the order of the program because their talks are meant to go in order. A special musical number, Fix You, by the Advanced Vocal Ensemble. Anna? I'm getting ahead of myself. I thought you were trying to fix I changed the program a little bit, and I'm looking at it as I'm reading. I actually, skipped one of our founders, Linda Foreman, and it's not okay. Our next speaker will be one of our founders, a person who's been an inspiration to our school and to the man who's been very important in building our school as well, Linda Foreman.
I truly did tell them it was okay. To you graduates, I want to address what I expect you received at John Adams Academy and what I hope you do with that gift. The eminent British historian and author Paul Johnson said, "Thus the good hero lives on, in our minds if we are imaginative, and in our actions if we are wise." For the last 2 years at John Adams Academy, the theme we have focused on is the hero's journey. In John Adams' tradition, a hero would be someone who gives his life over to something greater than himself, has unquestioned integrity both in public and in private life, lives reverently, consistently uses good judgment, adheres to all that is just and honorable, is steadfast in his beliefs, and pursues a right course of action even in the face of overwhelming criticism, adversity, and even with the faint-heartedness of friends. He has the ability to transform ideas into accomplishments, has a love of and imitates all that is excellent and praiseworthy, makes a persistent effort, not just a single surge of courage. He is self-disciplined, virtuous, and he must believe in the heroic. We've kind of rephrased our 10 core values. Our purpose in founding John Adams Academy is that each of you leaves here today a hero, one as I've just described. Historically, these great heroes have been honed by the classics and mentors, and I imagine that you have found that classics can indeed mold your character, offer sound judgment and leadership, give you individual joy and solace, and can make friends and counselors. Jane Eyre taught me that in romance, love is not enough, and that I must always be true to myself and to my own principles. She says this as she gets ready to leave Mr. Rochester. "I will keep the law given by God and sanctioned by man. I will hold to the principles received by me when I was sane and not mad as I am now. Laws and principles are not for the times when there is not temptation. They are for such moments as this, when body and soul rise in mutiny against their rigor. Stringent are they, inviolate they shall be. If at my individual convenience I might break them, what would be their worth?" She was heroic. Mentors, both real and fictional, serve as teacher, sponsor, advisor, model, whose most critical function is to support and facilitate the discovery and realization of your own unique mission in life. One of the best ways to do this is to imitate their greatness. Another of my personal heroes is Sir Winston Churchill. Throughout his long married life of over 60 years, there was never the remotest hint of infidelity. Throughout his long political life, even his worst enemy never insinuated that he was a liar or dishonest or unfair or dishonorable. There are some people who do not need to be reminded to be honest. There are those who never have to be begged to go to work. Imagine Churchill as lazy or immoral or having an inferiority complex. In 1940, the Germans made continual bombing runs over England. No one knew if the British could hold out. But they did know that if the world was to survive, someone of sufficient stature would need to be found to stop the Germans. Although Churchill was then almost 70 years old, it was decided that he was the man. May 10th, 1940, he became British Prime Minister. He tells us how he felt that day. He said, "As I went to bed about 3 a.m., I was conscious of a profound sense of relief. At last, I had the authority to give directions over the whole scene. I felt as if I was walking with destiny, and that all my past life had been but a preparation for this hour and for this trial. I thought I knew a good deal about it, and I was sure I should not fail." A month later, June 18th, he spoke to the House of Commons about the disastrous turn of events in Europe, amid the stark realization that Britain stood alone against the seemingly unstoppable machine that was Nazi Germany. He said this, "Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour." I love the audacity of his vision and his courage. His honesty, fidelity, and leadership have inspired me in my own trials and have been a part in preparing me for my own finest hours. Your time at John Adams Academy has been filled with great books and noble mentors. You will continue on your journey with public and private virtue, trained intelligence, practiced excellence, wisdom, a love of country, and an understanding and a devotion to its ideals of freedom and exceptionalism. And finally, you leave with a delight in the right things. In short, your experience at John Adams Academy has prepared you, like other heroes, to do something great. Go forth with reason. Bear yourself with modesty and with self-control. Convince with your rhetoric, but most of all, by a blameless life. Be cautious in action, slow in judgment, and particularly circumspect in your speech. Many men desire excellence, and they will give themselves over to the study of knowledge and truth because they see the results of it in you. Dear graduates, be known as noble, wise, and good, and continually in the service of your fellow men. Be the hero of your own story.
We'll try this again. Okay, we will first then of our scholars be pleased to hear from our valedictorian Iana Yermolov, and she will be followed by our salutatorian Sarah Peterson. We will then be able to hear a special musical number by the Ave Choir, Fix You. Anna?
am deeply honored to stand here in front of all of you and would not have been able to achieve this level without the wise leadership and support of my teachers, my fellow scholars, and above all, my family. Switching to this school was originally my parents' decision. They were always in a quest to find the best for their children, searching for a school that would provide a classical education, which would combine academic excellence with high moral standards. And I believe they weren't wrong in choosing John Adams Academy. I am so grateful that we made that decision, and overcoming my fears of meeting new people and facing new challenges, I came here 3 years ago and submerged myself into this world of knowledge and wisdom. There were times when the learning process was easy, and at other times we were so overloaded with all the homework, projects, and essays that we thought we had reached the limit. But what always brightened our days were our classmates, or should I say dear friends. We never had a dull moment together. Cambrian often found a way to entertain us, whether it was through his dancing abilities or just by being Cambrian. And Sarah Peterson never ran out of creative ideas for all kinds of projects and field trips. These are the moments we will never forget. We grew very close, and I do not think we would have survived these past years had it not been for our classmates. We will always treasure these memories throughout the rest of our life. Looking back at the past years, undoubtedly we seniors became enriched and gained insight on the detailed history of the United States and Europe, on philosophy, on how government and economics functions, and even on how the human body is structured. But most important of all, we gained insight on life in general, and on how to approach our future. We discussed the meaning of life and sought the answers everywhere we were able to. We searched in classical texts for solutions to all our topics. I don't know that we have found all the answers, but we now know the right direction in which we should make the next steps. We learned what it takes to become a servant leader and the values necessary in order to be one. We have the 10 core values ingrained in us: public and private virtue, modeling what we teach, abundance mentality. These are only several of the values we were taught. We were educated to the highest degree, both spiritually and intellectually. William Yeats once said, "Education is not the feeling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." This fire was lighted in us. We grew to love education, the process of acquiring knowledge and wisdom. Dr. Schulteis, I believe your efforts weren't in vain, and we now love philosophy as well, at least the majority of us. As we stand here ready to graduate, we have in us this desire to learn more, to grow wiser, to read more great books, to discover more answers to questions. And after graduating, I'm sure we will strive to achieve these goals. But what we also know is that life gets tougher along the way. There will be times when we are so preoccupied with different things that we have no time for anything else. I understand that because of my hardships, because of my life and my young age, I can't really judge the hardships of life and how the future will turn out. But all of us seniors got a glimpse of it based on Dr. Schulteis' oral finals and Mrs. Schaefer's long essays, which went up to 15 whole pages. But in all seriousness, life is not easy. We will face our ups and downs, and we'll have many challenges along the way. But despite everything, I encourage every one of you to keep on going. Keep the fire of education ignited in each of you. Do not allow any obstacles to hold you back from reaching your education. Strive to attain your goal in education no matter what distracts you along your path and your way. I would like to conclude my message with a quote by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Thank you.
To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist. Your palms are sweaty. You wipe them against your pant legs. You're breathing a little heavier than usual. You try not to show your fear and excitement. You bite your lip as you look around, hoping no one else will see. Your eyes glance down, then up, then down. This is a big moment, the most pivotal moment in your life so far. He's about to hold your hand. You breathe. The butterflies turn into a zoo. You feel alive. You may faint, but you feel very much alive. Your palms are sweating again. This time, you're in an airplane with a parachute. Skydiving. A fun concept until you get to the top and you have to jump. The blood is rushing through your veins. Your heart is pounding. No, your heart is jumping out of your chest. The adrenaline is flowing through every crevice of your body. You wipe your palms on your pant legs once again. You feel alive. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist. Hold hands. Go skydiving. That's what it means, right? Have adventures and play and laugh and sing. Do what you love because you only live once. Follow your heart. Eat cake. Life's short. Buy those shoes, right, Erica? We look at this statement and almost justify it as a means of pleasing ourselves. Seize the day becomes you only live once. Carpe diem becomes an excuse. We look at our lives and figure if what we're doing isn't fun, it's not worth it. Now, this is a commencement speech, not some sort of comment on society, but it's also a commencement speech. Commence, to begin. Our senior class has been working so hard to finish, but in reality, we're just about to begin. The idea of commencing and beginning to live life at its fullest are linked. So, let's continue. John Adams Academy. This school was created to restore America's heritage by creating servant leaders. The whole idea of this institution, the sole purpose of this school is not to educate us in academics, though this is something we take pride in. It's to create good people. We may have sent scholars to Valley Forge. We may have had our scholars win writing competitions, and that's wonderful. But why educate these scholars? Why give them oral finals in economics, Dr. Schultes? If they can't go out and do something good with it. We can be smart, but we can also be smart and mean. Arrogance doesn't get you far. Pride kills the soul. This is why the 10 core values are put into place at John Adams Academy. Self-governance, personal responsibility, accountability, building a culture of greatness, modeling what we teach. All of these are forming us. They are creating who we are. While we are young, we are learning how to be good people. Our mentors have been leading us along, helping us to create memories that will stay with us for the rest of our lives. Our teachers are hoping this for us. They're not just our teachers. They're our mentors and our friends. They have been reading our papers, grading our homework, and dedicating themselves to us. They have led us through thick and thin in terms of school in just about every aspect of our lives and have been there to lead us through by their example. Their biggest goal is to help us to become who we want to be and be good people. Servant leadership was not magically accomplished on our own. They helped us. They believe in us. They were our lighthouses, leading us through the storms of life. John Adams Academy, restoring America's heritage by creating servant leaders who are keepers and defenders of the principles of freedom from which our founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Now, why am I saying this? Why am I explaining the mission and the vision of our school, something you're already so familiar with? Because we have learned, we have prepared. We have been mentored, taught, and loved. We have been raised up as servant leaders. We have a duty to serve, to lead, and to change the world. We have a job to preserve the principles of freedom which the founding fathers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. We are keepers and defenders. Now, back to living life to the fullest. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Yes, let's follow our hearts. Yes, let's eat cake. The blessings in life will get us through. But we must share it. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? What are we going to do to preserve the freedom of others? What are we going to do to make a difference in another person's life? How are we being servants? How are we being leaders? Emerson wrote, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. To live doesn't mean to please oneself now. It means to serve others with love and kindness, with strength and dignity. We can make a difference. We can reach the stars. Like Willy Wonka said, we're the music makers. We're the dreamers of dreams. It's our job to lead the future generation to the next step, to teach them to love, educate them in wisdom and passion, light a spark that will ignite. Today, our palms are a little sweaty. As we get our diploma and shake Dr. Foreman's hand, we will graduate. Our adrenaline is rushing, our emotions are high, and our loved ones watch with proud hearts. We feel alive. As we walk down the aisle with high heads and happy smiles, are we going to merely exist or grab life by the horns? After this night is over, are we going to continue to become the servant leaders we are becoming now? It's our job to save the lost, mend the broken, lead by example. Our job to serve the needy, provide strength for the lowly. Let's get involved. Come on now, let's change the world. As I look at all of you, I'm so proud. You're amazing, and I love you. I will miss you. I will miss this school. I will miss these teachers. Our lives are about to change, but let us not forget this beautiful memory. Let us not move forward without looking at what brought us here. What's more, perhaps, that one memory may keep him from great evil, and he will reflect and say, yes, I was good and brave and honest then. I say this in case we become bad, Alyosha went on. But there's no reason why we should become bad, is there, boys? Let us be, first and above all, kind, then honest, and then let us never forget each other. I say that again. I give you my word for my last part that I'll never forget one of you. Every face looking at me now I shall remember, even for 30 years. You are dear to me, boys. From this day forth, I have a place in my heart for you, and I beg you to keep a place in your hearts for me. Ah, children, ah, dear friends, don't be afraid of life. How good life is when one does something good and just. My friends, let us live. Let us move forward. We are ready. Thank you.
Hopefully it's a mark of a good teacher when their students speak better than they do. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge our Board of Trustees at this time. Dr. Dean Foreman, Roy Bratz, Norman Gonzalez, Tricia Nielsen, and Cindy Sherrod. I would also at this time like to turn the time over to Dr. Dean Foreman to introduce our keynote speaker. Oh. All that following the following musical number.
When you try your best but you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need, when you feel so tired that you can't sleep, stuck in reverse, when the tears come streaming down your face, when you love someone but can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste, could it be worse?
Will guide and ignite. I will try.
High up above or down below, when you're too in love to let it go. And if you never try, you'll never know just what you're worth.
Eyes will guide, hold, ignite. Will try to fix. When you do something you cannot replace, tears stream down your face, and tears stream down your face. I promise you I will learn from my mistakes. Tears stream down your face, and
lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
Good evening. It's good to be here with you. Many of you may be wondering how we got Professor Mansfield all the way from Harvard to Roseville. Well, it was about 2.5 years ago. It was the fall of 2012. I was in my usual morning routine reading the Wall Street Journal at about 6 a.m. on my recumbent bike, and I saw an article there, and I thought, he really gets it. And as I read more, I thought, this is someone who has mentored some of the greatest political minds of our generation. I quote, "Few have thought as hard or as much about how democracies can preserve individual liberty and national virtue as the eminent political scientist Harvey Mansfield. when it comes to assessing the state of American experiment in self-government today, his diagnosis is grim. However, this year marks the 53rd anniversary of his teaching at Harvard. He said, quote, "It isn't easy being the most visible conservative intellectual at an institution that has drifted ever further to the left for a half a century. I live in a one-party state and very much more so in a one-party university. I get along very well because everybody thinks the fact that I'm here means that things I say about Harvard can't be true. I am kind of a pet dissenter." Partly, his isolation on campus has to do with the nature of his scholarship. At a time when his colleagues are obsessed with trendy quantitative methods and even trendier identity studies, he holds steadfast to an older tradition that looks to the Western canon as the best guide to human affairs. For him, Greek philosophy and the words of thinkers such as Machiavelli and de Tocqueville aren't historical curiosities. He sees writers grappling heroically with political and moral problems that are timeless and universally relevant. The threat of self-government is clear, he goes on to say. The American founders wanted people to live under the Constitution, but progressives want the Constitution to live under the American people. His first teaching post came in 1960 at the University of California, Berkeley. In California is where he became acquainted with the German-American philosopher Leo Strauss, who at the time was working at Stanford. Strauss was a factor in him becoming conservative. He says that was a whole change of outlook rather than a mere question of party allegiance. Strauss had studied ancient Greek texts, which emphasized, among other things, that within democracy there's good and bad, free and slave, and that democracy can produce a slavish mind and a slavish country. The political task before every generation is to defend the good kind of democracy, and to do that you have to be aware of human differences and inequalities, especially intellectual inequalities. We shouldn't use our principles as substitutes for intelligence. And so he was born March the 21st of 1932. He was married to Delba, who passed away about 5 years ago. They have two sons, and one is a Supreme Court justice in Iowa. The other works on Wall Street in finance. He's now married to Anna, who he met in Germany. It's quite a touching story. He's now had two soulmates. I say soulmates because they were wives that did his academic and intellectual studies with him. And that's a wonderful thing to enjoy. He still tells the story of meeting Anna in Germany on a retreat, and he went and knocked on the door, and she answered it and said, "Professor Mansfield, I presume." And yes, it was him. He is the author of 15 books on everyone from Machiavelli to translations of Democracy in America by de Tocqueville. He has written 108 articles on everyone from Locke, Burke, and Hobbes. And as I read through his resume, I was just astounded. It's truly a great privilege to have him here. He has written also on Edmund Burke and the nature of political parties, and Machiavelli and the invention of indirect government, in defense of defensible liberalism and in favor of a constitutional American political science. He's also written on the discovery and development of the theory of executive power, and has translated 3 books of Machiavelli's, and with the aid of his wife, de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. A book on manliness came out in 2006. I need to read that. And his latest is a very short introduction to de Tocqueville in 2010. He was chairman of the government department from 73 to 77, has held the Guggenheim and NEH fellowships, and has been a fellow at the National Humanities Center. He won the Joseph R. Levinson Award for his teaching at Harvard, received the Sidney Hook Memorial Award from the National Association of Scholars. In 2004, accepted a National Humanities Medal from the President, and in 2007 gave the Jefferson Lecture in the Humanities. He is a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford. He has hardly left Harvard since his first arrival in '49 and has been on the faculty since 1962. He was gracious to accept coming here, and we are thrilled to have him, and we are honored to hear from you now and look forward to your remarks. Dr. Harvey Mansfield.
Thank you very much, Dean Foreman. That was a very gracious introduction. I'm afraid that sometimes the frame is more beautiful than the picture. A graduation ceremony is a moment of pride in which we do honor to our graduates, and congratulations to you all, and to their parents and their teachers who were such a help to them. Of course, the school gives the honors, but the school consists of students and teachers supported by parents. So we are doing honor to ourselves. Why should we take the time to do honor to ourselves? Isn't this a waste of time, effort, and expense? Why stop what we are doing to praise ourselves for doing it? This is a special school because it specializes in the classics. I too specialize in the classics, and I'm a teacher. So I will use the time to teach you something so that we don't waste it. I will teach you something that could be learned from Plato and Alexis de Tocqueville, but I won't mention their names again. Well, maybe once more at the end. And I won't give a classroom lecture. Let's return to what we're doing now, holding a celebration. Now, the title of my remarks today is Dressing Up. And it's not on a grand theme, but it's something every day, and not every day. A celebration is a formal event, one for which everyone is dressed up. Not just dressed, but dressed up. What does this up mean? Dressed up is looking your best for an occasion when you want to look your best, an important occasion. You dress in order not to be naked. You dress up to show that this is not ordinary work or leisure, but an event. Why do we dress at all? To show ourselves and to cover up ourselves. For an event, you dress in formal wear, not informal. What is formal and informal wear surely differs in different times and places. But in every human society, there's always a difference. Some people dress up for work or school, perhaps in uniforms, perhaps by wearing a suit if you work in a fancy office. Dressing up is done for the sake of society. It is to show yourself at your best. What will others think of you if you don't dress up? It's a sign of respect for what other people think important, but also for what you think is important. It's a sign of self-respect to dress up for your graduation. You worked hard for your education, and you are justly pleased at the result. When dressed up, you look different from when you're dressed informally. You try to look different. That's your intention, so as to show respect for others and for yourself. Formality is a sign of our social and personal sense of self-importance and self-satisfaction. Now we begin to see a problem. Isn't it possible that some people may be too self-important and take themselves too seriously. When they dress up, they put on airs. They're not cool. They are what used to be called phony. That's from a book of my time, The Catcher in the Rye, which I hope is now forgotten. Not only do they think too much of themselves, they worry too much about what others think of them. People like this are vain, and their formality seems to be the expression of their vanity. They are conceited and stuck up, yet they're also conformist and stuck in a rut. From this, you could conclude that informal dress is more honest than fancy dressing up. You appear as you are, not as you wish you were. This objection says that it is more direct and also more equal to be informal. It follows that democracy, which stands for equality, much prefers informality to formality. Americans, a very democratic people, act accordingly. We are a can-do people. We like to take shortcuts. We don't like to stand on ceremony. We say what we mean, and we like to speak bluntly, without flourishes and without diplomatic niceties. We like efficiency. We don't like to waste time. We get impatient easily. All these can be positive qualities, but they also harbor a danger. Too much informality can make you disrespectful of other people's dignity. When you interrupt other people, it may be because you believe you know more, or speak better, or think faster, but it infringes on their self-expression and makes them feel inferior to you, thus resentful of you. The formality of speaking in turn is more respectful of others. It may slow down the discussion, but perhaps that is not such a bad thing if it keeps you from blurting out ill-considered opinions. Another example of a formality that protects human dignity is table manners. Eating like a pig means that you are satisfying your hunger directly and immediately, without pause or ceremony or prayer, like an animal. A human being eats from a table, or at least off the ground, sociably, with friendly talk, to indicate that eating is not just feeding your face, as we say. Table manners are a social convention, to be sure, practiced differently in different occasions, in different societies. But every society has some sort of table manners. It's a part of human nature to want to distinguish ourselves as being above other animals. We are animals too. We have to eat, but we eat with dignity. Sometimes people overdo dignity, and in emergencies one must set it aside. And even we informal Americans must insist on some level of politeness. To be polite is a formal virtue. You don't have to like someone in order to be polite to him. Being polite keeps you from making enemies of those you don't like or don't know. It's convenient to be respectful in this way, even though it's a hindrance to your free action, not to eat like a wolf when you're hungry, just as it is a restriction on your free speech, not to tell people what you think of them. When people expect you to be polite, not to be polite is a formal declaration that you don't care about them. Not taking notice of others is not neutral, it's an insult to them. Politeness is a required formality, and if you're not polite, you'll pay for it. Even though informal behavior is private behavior with other people is not always informal. Other people watch you, and if they're impressed with how cool you are, they may imitate you. Cool is a word that describes people who may start by challenging a more formal custom, for example, wearing jeans instead of pants, but who then set a fashion so that the new way becomes the formal way, that everyone follows. When I was in college, a male student had to wear a coat and tie to be allowed in the dining hall. Then, when the rule was abandoned, nobody wore a coat and tie. To be dressed up became overdressed. This is how democracy enforces many of its rules. Nobody wants to stick out from the rest of the crowd. If you want to stick out and be noticed, it's better to do it with an action that's worthwhile. To dress a little bit oddly, like a man who wears a hat, is not wrong, but it's better to think differently. There's no worse feature of democracy than conformity of thought. Not in what you wear, but in your opinions. Most people have reasonable conclusions, but most of those conclusions are not well thought out. Another recent growth in informality can be seen in the use of first names only. When I was your age, and the teacher or anyone else asked me for my name, I would give both names. Now when I ask as a teacher, the answer is always only the first name. To me, that's not enough. I'd like to know your family name as well. That's the name I'll use when I grade you. But to students nowadays, the first name is enough. That's the fashion. Everybody does it. And anyone who gives his last name would seem out of place, trying to be superior, more important than the others. Besides, being known by your family name might make it seem that you are not your own person, that you are identified by not by what you've done, but by the family you were born into. Being on a first-name basis is more equal, and democracy, the kind of government we live under, is mainly about equality. Students want to be on a first-name basis with their teachers as well. That's more friendly because it's more equal. Friends are your equals, but teachers are your instructors. How come your friend gets to give you a grade? And from the teacher's point of view, shouldn't you always give a good grade to someone who is your friend? What are friends for, if not to give them benefits? Here we see the seed of grade inflation. Everybody is good and everybody is equal, so all get A's. What is needed is a formal distinction between teacher and student, or between waiter and customer, or between policeman and civilian. While the teacher or waiter or policeman is doing his job, he's not your friend, and you should treat him formally, just as he should treat you, not with the favoritism of a friend, but with good instruction, good service, and the impartial justice of the law. It's good to be personal with your friends, but we also need to have impersonal relations in which there is some distance between individuals, some degree of reserve in the relationship. That's because society requires authority, a certain inequality in useful relationships, even in a democracy. Formal distinctions between jobs allow someone to be your boss, but only on the job. Outside the job, you're an equal citizen. That means you're not a slave. You obey orders only because it's useful to you to do so. It's not that your boss is a better person than you are, but that it's his job to give orders and yours to obey. This is democracy with equal dignity despite the necessary inequalities required for any successful human society. Those inequalities are equalized as much as they can be through formalities such as the use of last names. You can say politely, "Mr. Mansfield, you're beginning to bore me." One last formality I will mention actually affects behavior and is useful. This is the ceremony of marriage. Why is it necessary to get married, one might ask? Why not just live together and have children and raise them without an expensive ceremony and a piece of paper called a license? And why bring God into it? Why all the formality? Today, two opposite trends exist regarding marriage. On the one hand, illustrating the dangerous power of informality in a democracy, many fewer people are getting married, and many more children are being born out of wedlock. On the other hand, a political movement in favor of same-sex marriage has been gaining adherents and seems to be on the verge of succeeding. The premise of that movement, of course, is that marriage is a good thing, worth having, a sign of success and respectability. And indeed, marriage does seem to affect the behavior of those who marry, and for the better. Married people do better in life, make better parents, and stay out of trouble with the law. Most of the time, I add, it's also more fun. The easy way to happiness in life is in finding and making a happy marriage. The hard way is through ambition. With this homily, it's time to close. Both Plato and Tocqueville talk about forms, but I've tried to find them in our daily life, in the difference we make between formal and informal, and why and how we do that. A formal ceremony shows what we want to be and covers up what we don't want to show. Human life is part show, part informal, concealment. We never show ourselves exactly as we are, but always a little more and a little less than we are. This last page is not coming easily. So I've been trying to show that ceremony is not a waste of time, and I've used my time in this ceremony to reason about ceremony, to show you why. Reasoning, I will add, is both formal and informal. It's formal because the reason always addresses other people, many of whom you may not know or never will know. And it's informal because you can reason in private. For example, when the teacher thinks he has your full attention. Thank you for inviting me to John Adams Academy. Congratulations again, and God bless you.
We will now have the presentation of the graduates by Jackie Schaefer.
Don't, you're going to make me cry. Thank you, Dr. Mansfield. That was wonderful to hear. August 2011. It's my first year teaching, and I have no idea what to expect. I wondered about the students I would teach, what kind of year we'd have. I could never have anticipated the incredible journey I would be experiencing the next 4 years. This senior class has changed my life. Despite the title of English teacher, I don't think I have the vocabulary to accurately describe the effect these 13 scholars have had on me, but I'll do my best. Our freshman year was an interesting one. Waylon, John, Michael, Erica, Sarah Milligan, and myself, along with 22 other students, explored the unknown territory of classic literature, a multitude of essays, discussions, and projects, while simultaneously balancing the obstacles that a new school brings. I looked at these 14-year-old kids and wondered how I was going to mold the title of scholar as a first-year teacher when I wasn't even sure what a scholar looked like. Yet, they taught me. They showed me how to inspire the love of literature, to inquire the unknown, to challenge the self, and to imagine the possibilities. I don't know if by the end of the year they could call themselves scholars or if I could call myself a teacher, but I did know we were on our way. Teenagers came and went. After 4 years, our initial 27 students in 2011 had dwindled down to 13. And I couldn't be prouder at each and every one of them. You stuck out despite the lure of bigger schools with more electives or larger sports teams. You faced academic challenges head-on instead of running to another outlet with easier options. You saw the value in the education you were given. In other words, you became scholars. Your aspirations to not only conquer the mountains of academics, but soar beyond the boundaries of a grade have given you a strength that many graduating seniors do not have. You have discovered the love of learning, focusing on the great conversation, discussing philosophy with respected authors like Dostoevsky or Plato, diving into writing not because it's a science, but because you have realized the power of words. This is truth. This is virtue. This is you. I want you to understand the impact you have had on myself and the other teachers sitting on the stage. You are not just young adults who come in and out of our lives every day between 7:50 and 3:15. You are minds of brilliance and passion and fun who inspire us to be better, to serve you. Your enthusiasm for learning, your insight and thought, your eagerness to become more is the reason we do what we do. And that's not easy to take on. So thank you for being our motivation. It has been an honor to teach you. Now that you are dressed in a cap and gown, sitting there, almost about to get your diplomas, I want you to breathe in this moment. Be present. Are you present? You are graduating high school. You made it. And now you're going to go off into the world and become the scholar you are meant to be. Remember that learning doesn't stop once you graduate high school, even for you, Waylon. Life is a classroom. What matters is the difference you make in it. You have such talent to do extraordinary things, and we can't wait to see where your life takes you. It can be difficult and scary, and sometimes you won't know what path to take. And that's okay. We all fall sometimes, but we get up again. In Dostoevsky's words of wisdom in the final moments of Brothers Karamazov that Sarah Peterson loves so much, he says, "Let us be, first and above all, kind, then honest, and then let us never forget each other." Take these words to heart. You may lose touch, but you'll always keep a piece of high school deep within your soul. You will be kind and honest and live the life John Adams Academy has taught you. And know that I, too, will never forget you. Dr. Schultheis, I proudly give you John Adams' second graduating class of 2015.
Dr. Foreman and the Board of Trustees, as headmaster of John Adams Academy, I recommend the scholars presented before you as graduates of John Adams Academy.
Graduates, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and Chairman of the Board, I accept you as the graduating class of 2015. Congratulations.
Now, it is now time to present the diplomas. One of those things we've been waiting for. First of all, Cambrian Castle. Erica Cater. Nathan Folkman. Ryan Lambert Harris. John William Harold. Waylon J. McKay. Sarah Milligan. Sarah Marie Peterson. Emily Faye Walker. Levi Eric Watson. Anna Yermolov. Lauren Marion Zundell. And I'd also like to recognize...
I'm Cambrian Castle, and if you don't know me, you haven't been paying attention. I'm very involved in social events and love to make people laugh. I'm 17 years old, and if you're wondering how that's possible, I skipped kindergarten. I enjoy playing the piano as well as singing. I'm in Virtus, the school's advanced vocal ensemble, which has been my greatest joy as a senior. I love mathematics and intend to major in mathematics, minoring in music. I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and will be leaving on a 2-year mission to share my faith with others. I love my friends, and I would do anything I can to help them. I'm so ready to graduate and hope to be able to succeed, not only for myself, but also for my future family, so that I may be able to support them in all their needs. Family is important to me, and if I had to determine my #1 goal in life, it would be to have a successful, loving, happy family, and therefore a fun life. That's me. Take it or leave it.
My name is Erica Cater. I was homeschooled a majority of my life, only attending a public school these last 4 years at John Adams. I remember the first time I ever felt smart was sitting in the back of Mr. Turner's classroom, 7th period of the first day of school. We went back and forth talking about particle acceleration, and it changed the entire way I looked at myself. There's no one moment in Miss Schaefer's class that changed everything, but I remember where I started, not knowing how to write a proper paragraph and being perplexed every time she wrote cite source in the margin because I had no clue what that meant. I mentioned them since they're the teachers I've had for all 4 years, but I could write about all the teachers I've had during my time here. My dream is to become a theoretical physicist. This fall, I will be beginning my college career either at Wheaton or Wellesley College. At the time of this recording, I still have 1 more week to figure it out, but both are great, so hey. I was able to go and visit both of them. Now I'm just looking forward to starting the next chapter of my life.
My name is Nathan Folkman, and this is me. I believe in the greatness of human endeavor and the strength of the human spirit. I believe that humanity has an extending potential that reaches far beyond anything they've ever known. I have faith that good is, and always will be, stronger than its contender. A quote comes to mind, written by one whom I consider to be a friend. And in the words of Dostoevsky, I will not and cannot believe that evil is the normal condition of mankind. I believe that every person is born for a purpose. I may not be sure what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, or necessarily how I'm going to get there. But I have faith that I will be guided by a gracious God to where I'm needed. Yet I do know this, that my life will be one built upon the proposition that every life has the ability to be a great one. And my greatest hope is that I can help anyone who needs relief and be able to support them on their journey to achieve the truest victory, that of finding the greatness within.
I'm Ryan Harris, and while I have only attended John Adams Academy for my senior year, the classical education I have received has made me become a better thinker and has given me the courage to express my opinions both on paper and in discussion. Coming to a new school for only my senior year was hard, but I have become more confident in myself and my studies than ever before. I would like to extend a huge thank you to all my wonderful teachers and fellow seniors for welcoming me when I came so unexpectedly. I could not have made it without you. Thank you to my beloved mother and father and the rest of my family for all their love and support. Thank you for pushing me to do better. Only 1 year ago, I thought I would be graduating at a different school with a different class. Now I am truly happy and proud to be graduating from John Adams Academy class of 2015.
My name is John. When I began high school, I was unsure of what I expected to get out of the next 4 years. Yet, even in my ignorance, after a single day in my local public school, I knew that whatever experience I desired it would be near impossible to find there. That night, I attended a meeting discussing the charter school, John Adams Academy, after which I joined the school's first freshman class just 2 weeks before the beginning of its first academic year. The school was everything I would have wished for, and every year the experience improved. Particularly influential in my life was the political philosophy class we took during our junior year, and more specifically its first reading, Plato's Republic. The great discussions we had during that class and the inspiring figure of Socrates instilled in me a love of philosophy which I'm sure will stay with me forever. The things I learned and the ideas I encountered in that class have played a major part in forming my ideas about the world. I now plan to continue my classical education at Thomas Aquinas College, studying philosophy and theology, my ultimate goal being to teach these subjects at a college level. For all of this, I would like to thank my mother.
Hello, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Waylon McKay. I'm a senior at John Adams Academy, and I can't wait to graduate. A little bit about me is that I love the outdoors. I love to go fishing, skateboarding, hiking, snowboarding, skimboarding, and quadding. If it's in the outdoors, I'll probably enjoy it. I've gone to JAA for all 4 years, although I haven't been fond of the idea of going to this school. I've been taught so much and I've been helped out by teachers or friends so much. At this time, I would like to thank all my teachers for pushing and motivating me to get this over with. I also want to thank my parents and family for their support and love that they gave me. Although I wasn't always the most scholarly, I am thankful for my experience at JAA.
I'm Sarah Milligan. I have been attending this school all 4 of my high school years, and I have really enjoyed my time at John Adams Academy. I am so glad to have experienced coming to this school. Through it, I have grown a lot and in many different ways. I've grown to love learning more and really see the value of education. I have learned to work hard and never lose sight of what I want. I feel much more prepared for my life after high school with the education I have received here. I plan on going to BYU, Idaho, and am interested in becoming a photographer or teacher. I have seen the influence teachers can have, and I want to have that same influence to change people's lives for the better, like my teachers have done in my life. I'm grateful for everyone who has inspired me and helped shape who I am. Thank you.
John Adams Academy has changed my life. Not only is it a school that pushes one academically, it is a school that pushes the desire to pursue education. The inspiration to learn and continue learning for the rest of one's life. I am blessed to have been part of this school and mission to create servant leaders. I plan to major in English and become a high school English teacher, sharing and replicating the love of learning I found at John Adams Academy with others. I have been fortunate enough to travel to the Dominican Republic and India to build churches and schools. These 2 trips alone have strengthened me as a person, forcing me to fully practice trust, faith, and most of all, love. I adore my family, and I am so blessed by the love they show me through unconditional support and care. I am excited for the next chapter of my life, and as my life flourishes into new beginnings, I will remember Louisa May Alcott's words. I like adventure, and I'm going to find some.
My name is Emily Walker, and these past 2 years at John Adams Academy have been the most difficult years I've ever had. But I'm so grateful for them because they've also been the most meaningful and rewarding. My experience at John Adams has changed my life, and I have all my teachers and mentors to thank for supporting and helping me to achieve college status. I have been accepted to BYU, Idaho, and will be leaving in the fall. I will be majoring in biology and hope to work in the medical field. I have my friends to thank for getting me through the hard days when sometimes we all just need a good laugh. And a cookie. My class is so awesome, and I will definitely miss seeing everyone together. Lastly but not least, I have my family to thank for always keeping me learning, laughing, and loving. I am ever so grateful for my mom's dedication in making sure my siblings and I get a good education. She drove us all an hour and a half to school and an hour and a half back home every day for 2 years. My mom is just so amazing, and I hope that she never forgets that. I'm so thankful for everyone who has inspired me to be the best that I can be. Here's to another new beginning.
Hello, my name is Levi Watson. I'm a brother to 4 sisters and a brother, and a son to 2 loving parents. I was born and raised here in Sacramento, California, and I've been going to John Adams Academy for the past 3 years. This school has taught me to learn from better thinkers of the past and still think for myself. I would like to thank Ms. Schaefer and Dr. Schulteis especially for this. As for my personal life, I am passionate about few things: music, my close friends, God, and truth. When I'm not doing homework, which is a lot of the time, I like to either play the piano, creating music, enjoy the company of a few close friends while getting into deep discussions about either philosophy, our faith, or the DC universe, sometimes all 3. Watch anime, read manga, listen to music, read my Bible, or other great books, pray, eat, sleep, and finally, procrastinate. After I graduate, I plan to attend Sierra College, but eventually study music and become an imaginative curator in that field. But not yet, of course.
My name is Anna Yermolov. I've spent 3 years at John Adams Academy, and the time flew by. I've gone through a lot over the course of these years, and every day has been worth it. I will never regret coming to the school sophomore year because it not only changed me as a person, but has helped me make treasured friends for the rest of my life. It turns out I made a wise decision. My classmates have gradually become my second family, and I am happy for all the time we've spent together. The mission and vision set by Mr. and Mrs. Foreman for this school to not only teach scholars to think for themselves and make correct decisions, but to also teach them to analyze all they are presented with, has been accomplished in me. Thanks to the wise leadership of the deans and teachers, and the goal and intention of the school, the mark and level by which I look at myself has raised. I am very thankful to the school for teaching us these values. Everything I went through helped me become a more developed and organized person, which is a positive step towards the future. All I have learned will significantly help me when I go to UC Davis and eventually when I become a pediatrician.
My name is Lauren Zundell, and I began attending John Adams Academy during my junior year. Coming to John Adams has been one of the best choices of my life so far. It has helped me to come out of my shell and develop who I am as a person. When I am finished pursuing higher education, I plan to be a physicist specializing in research. I have always had a passion for science, and physics in particular, and it is a lifelong dream of mine to make a career out of this passion. I hope to use my career to encourage young people, especially girls, to pursue science and math as a career path. Next year, I will be attending University of New Mexico with a major in astrophysics. I plan to continue my education through graduate school and earn a PhD. Lastly, I would like to thank my wonderful and incredibly supportive family, as well as my beloved horse, Reuben. They have been there through all of my growth as a person, and for their love and support, I am eternally grateful.
John Adams Academy, it's time to turn your tassels from the right side over to the left. You're now, again, officially recognized as graduates. Good job, Terry. A round of applause. We will now proceed with the recessional, and then we can meet outside and greet and mingle. Thank you very much for your attendance.